Okay? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Let us pray especially for all those people who are leaving their countries because of injustice, persecution, and they are searching for people able to welcome them as human beings. Let us pray for them. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Mary, seat of wisdom,
Pray for us.
in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
So tonight we work on knowledge, how we know. In that chapter is central in philosophy. You know, when you go on train or in the tramway, we are on track. And when you arrive, a switch. So you have to make a choice. I go to the left, right, to the left, or I continue with that chapter is the switch. Yeah. It is here where philosophers separate the theory of knowledge. And from that position they will take, the rest will follow. Ethics will follow from that. So that chapter is very, very important because it is, for me, the pivot of philosophy. All philosophy turns around the problem of intellection. How the world enters my mind. How I can know other things than myself, you know? So that is the problem. And we are endowed with senses. We are animals. My cat sees, I see. Smell, I smell, etc. So how we arrive to know other things? Through our senses. So our senses are the gates to knowledge, to the external world. It is through our senses that we know the objects that will become known by our intellect. So that is first part, we study sensation and perception, and the second part, after the break, we study intellection. First, difference between sensation and perception. Well, for example, when I smell a flower, I see a flower, I smell the flower, I touch the flower, you know. So that is a sensation. But my eyes see, my nose smell, and my hand touch the same flower, but is to see the same thing as to touch and that to smell. Now, each sense is a sense attained because it's proper object. It's proper object. The proper object of the eyes is the color. What is the object? It is the odor. And then it is the quality of the thing, like this, etc. Or if it is warm or cold. So that is, we have sensation. But when I see a flower, an orange for example, I see an orange. In fact, I see the color of the orange. I smell the orange. I taste the orange. I touch the orange. Each sense has something different. But in my mind, I have one orange. So I have many sensations, and those many sensations lead me to a unique object. They have their proper object, but we come to a common object. And that, to know that common object, we call that perception. I perceive. I have the perception of the thing my senses make me in relation with, you know. So the awareness of something green, of something yellow, of something, etc. So I will not insist now on perception. I will speak especially first on sensation. But you understand that sensation is more subjective, perception is more objective. Huh? Because I perceive an object. Okay? I go just under the rectangle here. Further, we'll give a definition of sensation. You see, it's the act of sense power. A power is a potency we possess, a capability doing some act. So we have a power, and the power can do some act and allow to attain some object. That is a sense. For example, I see, seeing the color. I have a power of smelling, I smell the flower, etc. You know? Well, that is sensation. Yeah? You have the word sense, sensory. We say sometimes sense knowledge or sensory knowledge also. Sensory knowledge or sense knowledge. The knowledge through our senses. Okay? Consciousness of singular. So what I know through my senses, I know things that are singular. I see this cat. I don't see the cat in general. I don't see the cat in particular. I see this cat, this or these cats, but each one is individual. Okay? They are concrete. They are material object by means of one of the sense powers organ in a material way. Bon. An organ, what is the word organ in Greek? Organon means tool, instrument. Organon. So organon, organic means endowed with instrument. And my senses are the tools, are the organon. In fact, the organon allow me to accomplish to realize my power, to know. I know through my 5 organs, my 5 external senses. Okay? And there is a cognitive representation of some material thing in a material way. Okay, through senses. I say knowledge through senses. Now, let us go to various stages of sensation. So the first, you have the physical stage. There must be some stimulus. I cannot know if there is no object. And the object provoke on my senses a stimulus. And that stimulus is the beginning of sense knowledge. Okay? So the physiological stage. So when there is a physical, after that there is a reaction in my body we call physiological state. I will not insist on that. But the third one, that is important. The psychological stage. And that is it is the way I receive what is outside of me. The psychological state. Since the sense organ is alive, it reacts to the stimulus. So I have an object, and my sense react to the object, and they send that reaction to my brain, my senses. We see that how we can synthesize all those sensations. Okay, so let us take an example. Suppose for the first time in your life you see a kangaroo. A kangaroo. Kangaroo, I don't remember. Okay. A panda. I don't know how to write kangaroo. A panda.
I can tell you.
Kangaroo.
Kangroo.
Ah, okay.
Kang, K-A-N-G-R, no O.
Kangaroo.
Kangaroo, maybe R-O-O.
No, but look, kangaroo. Kangaroo. Anyway, let us think a panda or a kangaroo or a cow or a cat, what you want, okay? So that, it is the object of my sensation. I react, I have something, something comes to me. So the first time you see something, something is impressed on your senses. Something impress your senses.
Oh,
O.
K-A-N-G-A.
N
A.
G
A. No, that's wrong. No, A-R-O-O.
kangaroo.
Kangaroo.
Like
Yeah.
that.
That looks like a U, but it's K-A-N-G-A.
No, it's not a kangaroo. Kangaroo.
Kangaroo.
Anyway, you know what is a kangaroo? Huh? The first time you see that, there is something impressed on you. We call that sensible impressed species. Sensible impressed species. Species, be careful, mean image. Okay? That's a new meaning here. Well, species, we saw that in logic. Huh? It is when we have the complete definition, a species, a rational animal. We have also species when we divide animals, insects into categories, huh? Different species, the human species, etc. But here, species has the meaning of image. Because it comes from Latin, specere, it means to look, to see. Huh? No, image. Huh? Spectaculum, spectacle. Okay? So we have a kangaroo, we have a panda, etc. And the first time I see the external object, object, what is the meaning of object? What is put in front of me. Subject, what is put under. Object, what is in front of me. So what is in front of me? A kangaroo, or a panda, or etc. Okay? And that enters through my senses. I listen, I touch, etc. And there is a sense here we call the coordinating sense. St. Thomas called that the common sense. Sensus communis. Because in English that the common sense are another meaning, you know?
Yeah.
So it's better to say coordinating sense or common sense, but don't forget coordinating the different sensation in one to attain here. In the first image we have, maybe you, did you ever use a Kodak with a film? A
Yes.
camera with a film,
Yeah.
okay? So we have the box with the lens here, and you put a film here, a
Yeah.
film, a negative. So when you see for the first time, for example, a Christmas tree, the Christmas tree enter when you open the lens here, and you have here a Christmas tree, the first impression. So every time we see a thing for the first time, we have a first impression. We call that the sensible impress species. Like here, it is impressed on the film. Okay? Now, when you have that image, species made, image, when you have that image printed on your camera, what did you do? You went to the pharmacist and asked, can you develop?
Oh.
And he developed. And when he developed, you have a sensible, expressed species. Species mean
Image.
image. Express, why? Because you present to you. You can express what you saw, and you can use it after that through your imagination. So that is the first fruit of sensation is to print on your senses a first image. That first image, you can say that to you again, represent. What is the word represent?
Make present.
Exact, make present. It was before, and you go to Australia, you see kangaroos, and you come back to United States and you speak about kangaroos because you can represent them. They are no more here. They are no more with you, but they are able to be make present. So a representation, to represent, is to make something present again. Present again. That means what was printed in your senses, in your calculating sense here, will be present again in your mind, and you can use it. We call that an image, a likeness. It is a likeness.
Can you call it also record?
Pardon?
Record. Record the past.
But it's not a record. Yeah,
Record.
analogy or record. We can take that analogy. You have a tape, record, we play again. Very good analogy. Likeness, or we say also representation. No, not here. Here. Representation, etc. And there is a technical word, that's a new word you have to learn. That when you express to yourself the image you received in the past, that image represented that sensible express species. For example, the picture of your mother, etc., of your family, we call that phantasm. The phantasm is only a representation, a similitude, a likeness, etc. But the technical word is phantasm. PH, not F, PH. Phantasm has another meaning. You know, a new word, no, you have to learn phantasm. Okay? Phantasm is the image I can represent in my mind. That image is the image, therefore it is singular. That image is singular. It is, and it is sensible, singular and sensible. I can see that through my senses. I can represent that to my senses. Okay, that is, we call that singular, sensible. Phantasm is singular and sensible. We are in the domain of sense knowledge. Sense knowledge. Okay? So the object here was sensible material. The object was material. How can he enter my senses after? How is it possible that the kangaroo enter my mind?
By the vision?
Yeah, the vision. Okay, remember the theory of Aristotle about material things. Material thing. Look at the desk here. The desk is made with wood. The piano is made with wood. And that pulpit is made with wood. Is the same thing?
No.
No. What is different? What is different?
The image?
The form.
The form.
The form. So thing and material thing are composed with matter and form. Can matter enter my mind?
No.
No. Quantity excludes one. Impossible. But the form. That means the form is something immaterial. So the immateriality is important. If there is no immateriality, I cannot know because material cannot enter my mind. So it's something immaterial enter my mind. Okay. So when I see something, I know something. It is not the total animal, the total thing enter my mind, but the form, the determination, In fact, here, it is the idea of desk, huh? The form of the desk, I'm telling you mine. But the form of this desk, be careful, it's not the form in general, it's the form of this desk, the form of this kangaroo. Okay? So the reason why the image you have is sensible and singular and sensible. And when you represent that, it will be sensible and singular. Okay? Understand that, huh? For example, you can represent the image of the dog of your grandfather. Well, that image, you saw it once and now you can see it. Okay? A representation, phantasm. That is, we call such sense knowledge. But sense knowledge is not on, it is more complicated than that, because I have a coordinating sense. That coordinating sense, unifying all the different sensations I have, aspect, I arrive to that here, to that image. In that image, first image I have, the first image, is kept in the faculty, a power we call imagination. So, that is, because I have a lot of sensation. Every day I have many, many sensations. When you enter the class, you saw all those things. They are sensation, no? Continually, our senses are working, no? So, those images are stored, are kept, kept in imagination. So the first role of imagination is to keep images, to keep them. And also because they keep them to represent them, to make them present. And when they are making the image present, we have a sensible, express
image.
Species.
Yeah.
We call a
Thousand.
Okay? So that is the image we have. Though my image has kept my imagination. So imagination, first role is to store, to keep, to represent. But also another function, imagination, is a function of fiction. My imagination can reorganize my sensation and create something new. Okay? But when I think about the kangaroo, I saw in Australia, I remember when that happened. It was a beautiful day after a good meal. My friends say, let us go to the zoo and we see kangaroos. And we went to the zoo. What is that? Memory. That is memory. The image of kangaroo is situated in the past.
Are we farther than the phantasm? In the memory?
No. The memory is different from the phantasm.
Oh.
It is exactly what I try to explain, you know. The imagination is indifferent to time. Indifferent to time. When you imagine a kangaroo, you see any kind of kangaroo. It can be the kangaroo you saw in Australia, it can be the kangaroo you saw in Los Angeles, it can be the kangaroo you saw on the paper, okay? Any kind of kangaroo. But when you situate that image, because image is linked with experience, sense experience, when you situate that in the past, as past, that means when you have the power, we have the power to take those images and to come back to the past, is situated the past as past. That is important. As past. Because you can represent the dog of my uncle. But I don't think about when only the dog of my uncle. That is an image. But I sit with the dog of my uncle. When I met my uncle, I was 5 years old, and Poppy, the dog, was there, a black dog, very kind, very... that is memory. Memory. So memory it is not only the representation of an image, but to situate that image in the past. Okay? That is a sensible, sensible, a sense, not a sense, huh? It's a sense. That's internal sense. But that sense is very important. You know, memory is excessively important because it is through memory that you keep your identity. If you have no memory, you will not be able to say that you were in the refectory 1 year ago, 1 hour ago. That you were in Vietnam 1 year ago, or Nigeria 1 year ago. So what? Keep you, give you the conviction, the fact that you are the same. It is your memory. Memory, it is the condition for identity. If I have a text. If you lose memory, you lose your identity. There is a case I saw in the movie, and I stay in the place where that happened. The office of the Gestapo in Angers, in France, and a man was tortured. And after the war, he was not able to recognize his mother, his wife, his children, but he was able to sing opera. You know. That is, he lost his identity. I have another case. One of my students, when I was teaching in a boarding school, the 10th grade, I remember that very well. He was practicing gymnastics, and we have a rubber mattress on the floor, but he fell just outside, and he hurt the terrazzo. And when he stood up, with a beautiful smile, he said, "Where am I?" He did not know where he was. He lost memory. Yeah. But in class, he was the first. He knew Latin, mathematics, but he did not know who he was and where he was coming from. In that time, in 1963, 61 happened. It was not question to call 911. Even 911 did not exist at that time. So we waited. We did not call the family, no, we waited. And 2 days after, or day after, when he woke up, he was himself. He recovered his memory.
Oh.
You know, apparently, otherwise he would come back home.
So when you go in coma, you always lose memory?
Yeah, exactly. When you sleep, you lose your memory. When you sleep,
Yeah.
you don't know what happened during, but you kept the memory what happened before. Yeah. I have one of my teacher. He was the director of studies in a high school, college where I was, and he has an accident the 5th of June. He has nothing. The other were broke, but he has nothing. But he lost memory. So from he recovered memory the 26th of July. And between the 5th of June and the 26th of July, he knows nothing. It did not exist. He has no memory for a certain time. Okay? So now we can also use those images to prepare the future. For example, a spider, when it is knitting its web, it is preparing the future, preparing for hunting insects, no? So that we can use an image of the past to prepare the future. Animals have that, and man also has that. Well, the difference is man not only he knows the future through his instinct, but he knows through his intellect. He can preview with his intellect. So we call that sense, we call that cogitative. Cogitative. Cogito in Latin means I think. Remember, they cut cogito and
Cogitas.
I think, therefore I exist. Cogito, cogitative. But animals have that also. Animals have also their they can prepare the future, but they have no cogitative. They are not intelligent. So we call them estimative. estimative for animal. But what is in fact estimative? It is their instinct. Their instinct without reason, without intellect. We have instinct. We share instinct with animals. For example, we have instinct to eat, instinct to reproduce, sexuality. They have instinct, instinct to drink, etc. But we know that we can control that, we can orient that, we can use our intellect. The animal cannot use them, but they use their instinct without the intellect. So now we have here, we call this sense knowledge. Sense knowledge. And after the second part, when we come back, we study the intellectual knowledge, intellection. Okay? So I go now to the text. Okay, go to page 159 at the bottom. Okay, just number 3. The reaction to the stimulus produces a psychic modification called sensible impressed species. Okay. In fact, the form of the thing comes into my mind. The form of the thing comes into my mind, my memory, my imagination. But what enter me, it is the form, it is the image impressed on my imagination. But in fact, I asked a question. Can you see this image? Can you see the phantasm?
No.
No.
Okay.
The phantasm, the image, is something allowing you to see the object. So you see the object through the phantasm, through the image. For example, I have a picture. You presented a picture of your mother. You say, this is my mother. I will say, no, it's not true, it's not your mother.
The picture.
It is the image of your mother. A French painter, about 60, 70 years ago, an original, he painted a big pipe. You know, a pipe, a smoking pipe.
It was the Bengal.
He painted that huge. And he wrote on the painting, this is not a pipe. He was right.
Yeah, he was logical right.
He was logically right. It was the representation of a pipe. That means that is not a pipe, but it is the image through which I will see, but I think the object we call a pipe. So, what enter in my mind? The form. So the form allow me to see, and through the form, through the picture, the image, I can see what is outside of me. But in fact, I don't see the form. It is the reason why we say the phantasm is a formal sign. You remember, maybe you forgot, when we studied logic, we studied about formal sign and material sign. A material sign, it is something material, representing all the things that what it is. For example, a piece of linen can represent a country. But the formal sign, it is not something material. It is something immaterial representing another thing. That is difficult for us. But I will give you an analogy that will allow you to understand a little bit. Well, you know, that is the eye, okay, the eye of the human eye. When I see, suppose I see here a Christmas tree again. Okay, Christmas tree. The Christmas tree and And now I see it like that. Huh? The head is here. Okay? So I have here on my retina, I have the image of the Christmas tree. Everybody understand that? Very important. Huh? You have in your retina here the image of... No? Yes. And you see me, the feet here and the head there. I see you like that. Yes. But can you see the image on your retina?
No.
No. But if there is no image on the retina, can you see the pine tree, the Christmas tree?
No.
No. Therefore, that is very important. If you understand that, you understand the rest. No? I see the object, the Christmas tree, through the image I don't see. It is like a formal sign. I cannot see that image. But I must see the Christmas tree through that image. So its role is only not to be seen. It is an image, but not an image seen by me. It is an image indicating me what is that. It is like a formal sign. Like the phantasm is like that here, the phantasm. The phantasm, and we see that after the concept, both are formal signs because they allow me to see the object through them. I don't see them, but they must be there if I want to see that. Of course, nobody can see is on the retina, but we are sure, scientifically sure, that if you have a problem of glaucoma, that is dying and you don't see. You know? So we see through an image, but we don't see that image. So the nature of that image is only to allow you to see the external. It is a formal image, a formal sign. It is the role of the phantasm. It is the role of the concept. They are formal signs. They exist in my mind. They exist in my mind, but only as indicating something. So that they are immaterial. And for the concept, they are spiritual because they are universal. It is one of the proof of the spirituality of the human soul. Okay, so that is very important. If you have the intuition of that, the insight, now you know what is a concept, what is a phantasm. It is a sign, a formal sign through which I can see the object, but I cannot see the formal sign. Like I cannot see the image on my retina. Okay, page 160. Oh, I already spoke about that. Okay, I go to page 161. The senses. Well, I already spoke, but I will go into detail. So senses are the immediate principle of sensation. They have an organic structure. No, they have an instrument that is scientifically observable, and they are energized by a power of soul. So that means only a living being, of course, can use senses. A dead man can have all the organs, but he cannot use them. Here in my eyes, I have a partial transplantation of cornea. So what they did, the doctor, he took the cornea of the dead person and put that in my eyes. Now I see with the cornea of
Somebody else.
of a dead man. Like someone, they have a surgery, they continue to live with the heart of a dead man. They say for kidneys. So there must be a principle. That principle, we see that at the end. It is the soul, of course, the soul. Okay. So an organic structure and a vital power, vital power. That means that there must be life. A dead man, you can put a beautiful flower, smell, it does not react. To react, we must be living. There must be a living power. And that living power, giving life to everything, we call that the human soul, the soul for us. Okay? In fact, my senses are very important because they are the gates for me to be in contact with the world. If you are blind, you are not able to be in contact with everything. You are losing the color. If you are deaf, you cannot listen to sound. The existence of senses is so obvious. Probably when you went to primary school, the first class was about the 5 senses. You have 5 senses, and the teacher explained you that. So it is a universal fact. We have senses, and each sense has its proper object. We saw that before. Okay? Secondly, internal senses. We saw that also. We have not only external senses that make us in contact with the object, but my internal senses also make me in contact with the object. We saw, for example, imagination. Imagination makes me in contact with the object through the phantasm, through the image. I cannot see the image, but I see what the image represents. It is the difference between a photo, a real photo, and a formal sign. The formal sign, you cannot fix that on the paper, but the other, we fix that on the paper. That's the difference. One is immaterial. The phantasm is immaterial, but singular. Don't forget, immaterial, but sensible and singular. Immaterial, but sensible and singular. This kangaroo I saw in Australia. Okay? Now, internal, they are senses, they are powers, making me also in contact with the object. And they are necessary to have those senses if I want to know the object. Not only when the object is there, of course, senses exist only the time the object is in front of you. When the object disappears, you have no more sensation. But you have internal senses. Imagination keeps that image in you. We call it phantasm. Okay? So we have 5 external senses, page 162. I already explained the difference between perception and sensation. Sensation are the different way to attain the object, and perception, it is when I put all that together because of the coordinating sense. The common sensus communis, the coordinating sense. Okay? That takes all those different sensations and put that in one. Sometimes we use those. For example, you are waiting for waiting for someone. You are listening, and suddenly you listen the noise of a motor, a car coming. That is the car. Okay, so you can use that. You can use your eyes to see. Maybe the smell, gasoil, Okay. So the proper sensible, I have explained already that. They're capable of specifically stimulating a particular sense. Color is proper to sight, other proper to olfaction, how do we say, smelling. Okay? The common sensible, I already spoke about that. It has the property of quantify material reality. In fact, quantify material reality as in time, as in space and time. And they are related with quantity. Well, that material reality I know here, a material thing, material object, is as a quantified matter. Did I explain that to you?
Yeah.
Okay, remember that. Principle of in the the duration. Okay? And that material reality exists in time and space. Okay? So when I know something, I know a material reality, I can know it through many senses, through many senses. And in fact, because I can situate that object because of my many sensations, I can situate that object in time, in space, in motion, in duration, in motion, local movement, in space where it is placed, or in duration, or in size, etc. That requires a special sense. We call the internal sense, coordinating sense. So the coordinating sense is taking all those different sensations, so you can situate the material object which is quantified in space, in time, in duration, in duration. Okay. So that means in the concrete reality, in the three dimension, time and space, etc. But you can do that because you have many different sensations united. In that we call that the common sensible. The common sensible. Okay? And we know that to have the common sensible, to have a common object, we must have a coordinating sense. We cannot see the coordinating sense. You know, many of those things, we know that only through their effect or necessity. Here it is necessary to have something coordinating that. So we conclude there is a coordinating sense. We need a place to keep the images. So we attribute that to imagination. You know that we can use the images to relate to the past.
Memory.
We call that memory. We can use the imagination to prepare the future. We call that cogitative for man, estimative or instinct for animal. You know? For example, now many animals prepare the winter. For example, squirrel, they took a lot of nuts, etc. to prepare the winter. Bear, and they eat, so they have a lot of fat to be able to sleep to hibernate for 2, 3, 4 months. Okay? Now, page 163. So, Father Fuller defined common sensibility. You have that common sensible.
Yes.
Something naturally perceptible by more than one external senses, and primarily by none of them. That means not a single sense can grasp what is motion. We need many senses to see local motion, many senses to situate things in time and duration, etc. Okay? So a remark. These quantitatively conditioned qualities, common senses, manifest the natures of material realities as well as the functional values. So perception of this nature and those values is made possible by the activity of the senses. But it immediately surpasses simple sensation and requires other principles of knowing, such as internal sense and the intellect. So that unification of many sensations is made by the coordinating sense, but also by our intellect. You know, what we are doing, we are analyzing, we are separating sense knowledge and intellectual knowledge. But in fact, they are always together. That means when I smell something, I know that I smell. You know? Of course, I can insist only on the fact I smell. But in fact, I smell with my nose. I will say, maybe it's not totally orthodox, I smell with my intellect also. That means when I smell, when I taste an apple, it's not only physiological, it's not only something material. Because when I have the experience of tasting the apple, my intellect is abstracting, is working. My intellect works continually. But to understand the phenomenon of knowledge, we divide to unify after. Okay? But be attentive not to say, my intellect does nothing. No, my intellect is always supervising every action I do. When I smell, my intellect knows that I smell. When I coordinate things, I know that I am coordinating that. I know that the order of the orange and the form of the orange, the color of the orange, all that makes one orange. I know that. Not only I know that through my senses, internal sense, coordinating sense, but I know that also through my intellect. But here, we want to study only the level of sensible knowledge. Okay? So internal. Now go to, at the bottom, page 163. So the central sense, or common sense, or I told you, coordinating sense, or someone also, there are unifying sense. Unifying sense. The sense that unity among many sensations. Okay? I already explained that to you. You know, to have conscious of our sensation, we must unify that. One of the power we have in our capacity of knowing is the power of unifying. And we see that power, in fact, finally, it is in my internal sense, we call coordinating sense, but it is also in my intellect. My intellect has the power to take the multiple and to unify that in one thing. Okay? On page 164, so it is written, the central sense is also needed to explain comparison that no sense can make. For example, the sense of smelling cannot compare with the sense of seeing. So how we can unify that and make some comparison, it is because I have the central sense or common sense. But I told you common sense, I prefer you don't use that because in English common sense means to have a good judgment. And then common sense, good judgment. Okay? But just after that, according to scholastic philosophers, St. Thomas, Aristotle, etc., the common sense, or coordinating sense, is, quotation from Mount Sayer Jolivet, is the sensible consciousness, because through my senses I am conscious, because of which man, as well also animal, grasp phenomena of sensible life and coordinates data from senses. It is the coordinating sense. St. Thomas called that sensus communis, but it is better to say coordinating sense. Imagination, imagination, it is the internal sense which registers the impression unified by the central sense to reproduce them subsequently in the absence of the sensation and the object, sometimes with fanciful elaboration. But what is interesting here, register and store. In register is store and keep all the data we have from our senses to reproduce them when it will be necessary. To reproduce them. In fact, our senses are given to us first to assure our survival. We survive because we have senses. If someone like, you remember maybe Helen Keller, you know Helen Keller?
Yes. We watched the movie.
American.
The deaf and blind and deaf.
Deaf and mute.
Mute.
Helen Keller. Beautiful.
Oh, beautiful.
If one, it is on the internet. You can see the whole movie on the internet. So she was very depending on his parents, even to the age of 12. As long as I was able to have a contact with the external world. And because of Mrs. Sullivan, who educated her, that is a wonderful movie. But it's proof that we need our senses to be in contact with the world and with others also, with others. Because I can know you because through my senses, no? So if somebody, only to lose to become blind is so difficult. We can only listen. And touch, not always. We cannot touch the book. Okay? We cannot see television. We are only to listen to television. Okay? So, to reproduce them subsequently, sometimes with fanciful, fiction, I told that to you. One of the power of imagination is fiction, fictionalizing. Okay? Now, necessity of imagination, yes, is it necessary? First, for survival. I told you, our senses are given to us to survive. Animals, they follow their instinct. But we don't have a strong instinct, so we have to use our senses with our intellect together. And imagination is not only is reproducing, is fictioning, and with the intellect, it is able to not create, but to produce something new from the past. We can use the past to create something new, to produce, not create, because create is to do from nothing, but to take what we know and to try to do something new. Well, classical example of that is the relation between birds and airplane. So in fact, through century, men dreamed to fly, and they studied birds, they discovered the law of aeronautic. Finally, they were able to be a bird, a huge bird with 500, 1,000 people, you know. That is, we start from our sense experience of the past, and we arrive to something new in the future. You know? Imagination is very, very, very important, no? Like memory. They are very important. Today, I think one of the problems with young people, they don't use their imagination. Because they don't have to use that, they have that on the screen. In my time, we have no television, so we have only to create, everyone was to create his own world. And we play not with a gadget, we play with a stick. That was a horse. Huh? So we play with many things, yes. Yeah, we on the stick and we are running. It was my horse. Huh? And the gangster, we have used a stick, you know. Imagination. And that is important to be able to write, to create something. A reflection paper, you have to use your imagination and your memory, both. Huh? Okay? So the fruit of imagination, it is phantasm. I explained that to you. Go page 165. So the role, it is the representation of a concrete reality, make present. But because of the capacity of fiction, the imagination can be the cause of error. Huh? But error, in fact, is not in the imagination. Error is in the judgment. Now, error is not in my senses, page 165, cause of error. I give you an example. I was a young teacher. I have already 9 years of teaching. And I went to correct the examination to Quebec, because all the examinations were sent to the capital, and we have all the teachers of the province meet together to correct. And I was passing through a village. The village is called Sainte-Foy, Santa Fe, Sainte-Foy. And when I entered the village, of course, I was a young driver, maybe 100 kilometers, and it was only 60. So I saw in front of me a police car with a red cherry on the top. In my time, you have no blue, only red. Huh? So they have the car with a cherry here, a red cherry. Immediately, I became a saint. I went on 60 kilometers, 30 miles per hour. But when I passed in front of the police, it was not a real car, it was a poster. A huge poster, very well done, so well done that when you saw it about 1 mile, you say, oh, be careful, they are there. You know? Did my senses induce me into error? No, it is my interpretation. And my interpretation with the role of my imagination also. Okay? It is also the source of dream. In dream, in fact, we use the image of our imagination, but we have no control on that. When we are awake, awaken, we have a control. But when we dream, we have no control. So we can imagine anything. We can imagine we fly, we can imagine we can do, we said that in psychology, Plato said the good men do in dream what the wicked do in reality. They do in reality. Okay, so I don't have time to speak because time is passing so fast. So the cogitative power, it is the internal sense that employs data arriving from the external senses, and they are stored in the imagination. In fact, the memory, the hard disk, the hard disk is imagination. And to detect values or perception escape the lower power for survival. In fact, we try to organize the future to survive and to progress, okay? Well, I already spoke about that, the difference between man and animal, cogitative and estimative. Page 166. In fact, you are aware that a lot of things we study, I already explained before. It is a review, we study together. 166. Now, consider as a discursive power the cogitative here. It's a I use my intellect to preview the future with my senses, cogitative. My cat cannot use his intellect. Estimative, he follows his instinct. Okay, it's clear, cogitative for man. I cogito, I think. My cat cannot think, but we call that estimative because my cat also previews the future for himself. He is searching for mouse to eat, and also he has to mate to reproduce the species. So we have survival of the individual and survival of the species. If cats have no sexual instinct, the cat will disappear. But they have an instinct, therefore an estimative. And it's funny, when they mate, they don't mate with the same sex. They mate with another sex. Only man is too stupid to mate with the same sex.
Kant used to say, cogito ergo sum. I think means I exist.
Yeah.
Cogito ergo sum.
But your cat could say, I estimate, therefore I exist. But he cannot say that. Okay. Page 166. Now a word about memory. Memory. Well, the nature of memory, it is to internal sense, which play a role with respect with the cogitative and estimative, analogous to the imagination with the central sense. That means memory is linked with the imagination, like estimative, cogitative is linked with the imagination, but it is for the past and not for the future. In fact, I can say memory is linked also with estimative because we use the past to organize the future. In fact, the four internal senses are united. They work with one another. Okay? In harmony. What is the characteristic of life is harmony. If there is harmony, order, but there is a principle of intelligent principle. It's not the fruit of chance. Okay? So what is the role of memory? We have 5 things. First, preserve the function, meaning the such estimative of good and bad. So I don't have to renew every day experiences to know what is a good thing, a bad thing for me. When I experience something good, it is for the rest of my life. If I experience something bad, I know that. If I have no memory, I have to renew every day my experiences. But because I have memory, I know what is good, what is bad for me. I am not obliged to renew bad experiences. Okay? Secondly, store experiences. 3, recall the experiences in a type of temporal continuity. that is measured by the projection or perception toward the past. That means I recall the past, but I realize that the past is the continuation of
The future.
the present, and it is a link, it's not something totally apart. It is so true that if you committed a bad thing in the past, today you can have the remorse about that, or you have a success in the past, but today you can say, I am the responsible for that success or that failure. It assures the continuity of experience lived. That makes the unity of life. I told you that when a man is losing memory, he is losing the continuity in his life. In fact, he lives only the present. He cannot preview the future because he does not know the past. And that is called Alzheimer. In man, it is indispensable for organized personality. In fact, my memory is the condition of my identity. I keep my identity because I have the memory of what I was and what I am today, So I give you also 2 pages you can read by yourself about the importance of memory. Somebody is losing his memory, is losing his identity. He does not know who he is. That is not fiction, that is reality. There is a problem in someone, they have an accident, a car accident, or they use drug, and suddenly they have no memory. They don't know who they are.
It's called amnesia.
Yes, amnesia. They don't know who they are, amnesia. Okay? And finally, the last paragraph, page 167, perception. So I already spoke about that, and the difference between sensation and perception. So, usually differentiated from both sensation and intellection, the term perception applies to any immediate experience of the object obtained through the senses. So when I have the direct, immediate contact with the object through my senses, it is we call perception. And perception is made with my different sensation of the same thing. Different. I see a dog, the dog is barking, the dog is menacing, all that is put together, that has the perception of a dangerous dog. Okay? And so, to an experience that is more integrated than sensation, and more concrete and visible than intellection. So it is not universal, intellection is universal, but perception is singular. But it is more concrete than sensation. Sensation is made with many facts, but now I have not only many facts, I have only one reality in front of me. A person or an animal or some fruit, etc. It's not the case of the human person now. Although so distinguished, it is commonly agreed that the human perception includes both intellectual and sensory elements. That means when I have the perception of a thing, it's not only purely sensible. It is sensible because I depend on my senses, but it is also intellectual because I depend on my intellect. In fact, perception is made with the own knowledge of the thing. Knowledge through my senses and knowledge with my intellect. So I perceive, I understand. I perceive not only with my senses, I perceive with also the help of my intellect. Okay? But the definition, perception is always a unitary, one object. And instantaneous awareness of the material object. So I see one object in front of me, and I see that at the same instant. So if you see a car coming toward you, just in front of you, you see, not only you see with your senses, but you see with your intellect, and you are aware immediately, instantaneously of what happened. Because you have the perception of a car coming in front of you, that you will change your direction. You will go into the ditch, or you will take another direction. So with that perception is very important. In fact, perception is the unification of sensation with also the help of the mind, the intellect, the intellect. So sensation is more subjective and perception is more objective. They are the two sides of the same reality. A quantity cannot be perceived in the sensation without a quality, without an object supporting the quality. So, for example, the color green is not known without the leaves under the color green. So I cannot see green, I cannot see green here without perceiving the board supporting the color green. In fact, sensation is more limited. Perception is more global. Okay? But there is no perception if there is no sensation. Okay. So that I will end by that. The unified knowledge of sense object. Unified knowledge. Finally, all those many sensations arrive to be one. Okay? To explain the unified knowledge of sense object, it is necessary to resort to internal senses in general and to the central sense in particular. Central sense or coordinating sense or unifying sense. Or sensus communis, St. Thomas Dixit. The central sense integrates and amplifies the sensory apprehension. So it is a central. You know, when they are searching for a gangster, there is a central at the police, and they have many cameras. And because they have many information, they can centralize that, and they can have the right solution to catch the gangster. You know, so it is the same thing. We have many sensations, and that is unified and integrated, and because of that, we can use it for the future, for example, to prepare the future. In fact, continually we use that, because continually we have perception. For example, I speak to you, you have perception of what I tell you, no? You have no perception of what that. You see me, you listen to me, so you put that together, you know? And because of that, you can understand what I say. You understand why? Because, we'll see that next class, we abstract what you listen to. Because our senses give me always a singular, don't forget, two words very important. Sensible and singular. Sensible and singular. The sense knowledge, the object we know, and we have in our mind, it is sensible and singular. This cat, this car, this person. Even there are many, each one is one, you know. So I can say, okay, in class, I see all my students, I can say it's a particular, but in fact it is a series of individuals, one by one. Okay? So I have the perception of by one, and together I have also the global perception of the class. My perception is made with many sensations. A sensation is when one object. The perception can be through many sensations. I listen to, I perceive many sounds. I see many persons, you know, okay? So perception, as Father Wunderlich says, it is the power of the act of immediately knowing something within us or external to us. And finally, last page. So the second paragraph, the only power by which one can compare and contrast sensation and their object is the unifying central aim. That's, at first sight, that sense seems to be not very important, but it is important because it's the coordinating. It's coordinating all our sensation. Continually, we have received sensation, and continually, our coordinating sense is working. We never forget that continually our mind is working. Never we stop when we are awakened. When we are conscious, our senses are functioning, and my mind, my intellect is functioning because my senses send message to my intellect, and my intellect has to react. So finally, imagination and memory are operative. in space, time, and motion. Cogitative is for the future. Memory and imagination work in space. Memory work in time and in motion. So it is through my external senses and internal senses that I can attain the external reality. And that is important. Why? Because what is truth? Truth is the conformity of my mind to the
Object.
reality.
Reality.
Therefore, I must have a good knowledge of the reality to be true. If I don't have a good functioning of my senses, internal, external senses, I cannot know really the reality correctly. So my knowledge will be not true in regard of the reality. If my senses are defectuous, are not functioning well, for example, or my imagination is super active, creating a monster everywhere, I will not be able to tell the truth. You know, when the policeman they ask a question about an accident, some people because of their emotion, their imagination, they amplify, or they can make a mistake. They say that man did that. In fact, was not that man, and that man is taken and sometimes is condemned to death because of error. So that is important to have a good functioning of my internal senses and external senses, so I can attain the truth. Because the truth is the conformity of my mind to the reality. And to attain the reality, I must pass through my internal and external senses. Okay, take a break.